Who's got two thumbs and hates side hustles? This guy. For many people, including myself, Grant Cardone is a very inspirational person. He's a real estate investor and he definitely knows his stuff when it comes to building wealth. So, I was rather surprised when I saw that he'd written an article called Why Side Hustles Don't Make You Rich. Many people in the financial independence community use side hustles as a way to increase their income and try and build their wealth quicker. So I was really intrigued to find out about why Grant Cardone, one of the wealthiest real estate investors in the world, does not like side hustles. So we're going to talk about his article in today's video. Let's get into it. Welcome to Millennials with Money. My name is Johnny. Thank you for joining me for this video. Let's get this money. Alright, so let's take a look at the article. I'll put the link in the description as I'm not going to read the full thing. I'm just going to read the key sentences from it and then we're going to have a chat about what he says. So he begins by talking about people who drive Uber as a side hustle and their median income and how long it would take them to make $1 million on the result of that. He then goes on to say, it isn't that you cannot become rich, you're just not going to live that long. I'm not telling this to discourage you, I'm telling you this to help you focus on what will get you results. When you learn to control and focus on what matters, you'll become a powerful and unstoppable person. That's how I'll show you what to do here. There is nothing wrong with wanting to become unbelievably wealthy. Success is necessary to live a whole life, but you need to identify why you want to do it. And then this main section is where he really gets into the details. So you may have guessed from my introduction, but I don't like the concept of side hustles. It gives the impression that you're not committed. Having a side hustle means that you have a main hustle you're not concentrating on. What results would you get if you completely fixated on your main hustle? In my life, I've found that when I commit 100% to any course of action, I've gotten immediate results. When I wasn't, the results were delayed or never happened. I was in and out of sales 5 years before committing to it as my career entirely. Before I did, my performance was average at best. Once I fully dedicated and obsessed with learning everything I could about sales, was I able to make an income that could propel me towards my purpose. The point is that if you want to become rich, you need to quit your side hustles. They're not helping you and they are just distractions from what actions you should be giving your all. Also, stop looking for other options. Commit and strengthen your first flow of income. It deserves and needs your love and attention. Commitment is like magic. Please do it now and watch what happens. Alright, so as you can see from this article, he has a pretty strong view against side hustles. And now me, being someone who on this channel has talked about side hustles and I've talked about the advantages and the benefits of them, I'm gonna try and be balanced and see if there's points that I agree with Grant Cardone in this article and what points I don't necessarily agree with. So let's start with the things I agree with. So yes, a side hustle does imply there is a main hustle and a side hustle is of course going to get less time than the main hustle gets. So if your side hustle is something that you want to do seriously, perhaps if you want to become a YouTuber, if you want to launch your own shipping business, selling products on Amazon for example, or if you want to be a graphic designer, an artist, etc., then of course, like Grant Cardone says, it's something that you need to focus on 100% if you really want to be successful. So having it on the side means that your progress is going to be much slower. In addition, the point he makes about the Uber driver who only makes $154 a month on average, with side hustles, unless it's a scalable business, of course, then yes, you're probably not gonna, your hourly rate, your monthly income is probably not gonna be as high as it is with your main income because again of that time limit. And as your time essentially is costing something here, you know, you charge someone per hour, per journey if you're in an Uber, then of course it is going to be limited to the hours that you can do. So you're not going to be able to bring in a significant amount of money more if you want to be incredibly wealthy from a side hustle, of course. Now, I'll tell you, these are probably the only 2 points I disagree on. And for me, they only work in the context of if you want to be very, very wealthy and very rich. What you gotta remember is a lot of people who do side hustles do it because they just want to supplement their main income. They just want to bring in a little bit of extra income, whether it's to increase their savings rate, to increase their investing rate, or whether it's just to bring in a bit of extra income to help with their regular monthly expenses. That's what a side hustle is for most people. And of course, there's people in the financial independence community that do side hustles to increase their income, to be able to save more and invest more and retire earlier, quicker. Now, are these people going to be wealthy? perhaps one day, probably if they're going for financial independence, are they going to be Grant Cardone wealthy? I'm not saying they aren't, but in the context of the arguments that Grant Cardone puts forward that I agree with, then there's perhaps some weight to his argument. But as I say, a lot of people are just trying to bring in that extra income. They may want to save more, invest more. They might want to be rich one day, but for a lot of people, it's not the main goal of a side hustle to be rich. Another way in which I disagree with the statement that side hustles won't make you rich is, let's take the example. So someone makes 200 euros a month from their side hustle and they bring it in extra. Now, yes, in the short to medium term, let's say 5 years, this person is probably not going to become Grant Cardone wealthy. But let's say this person controls their spending. They really cut back on their spending, and that additional $200, 200 euros or whatever, they invest it in the stock market, or they invest it in whatever to generate a return on their money. The point is they invest it in something that can generate a compound return on their money over time. I've talked about the power of investing long term on this channel, and yes, that $200 or 200 euros, whatever currency, might not seem like a lot of money today, but the growth potential of that over the long term, let's say 10, 20 years, is pretty big if you really stick to it and keep investing periodically over that time. Then although that 200 euros, whatever currency you bring in your side hustle today, has a huge growth potential if you invest that wisely and smartly. And the last point I want to talk about that I disagree with is not so much about building wealth, it's more about financial stability and security. So as we see in the article, Grant Cardone, he advocates focusing on one stream of income, focusing on it, strengthening it, building it as much as you can, and that is what will make you wealthy. However, when we talk about financial independence, in the same way that we want to diversify our investments, we also want to try and diversify our income streams, so that if something happens to one of our income streams, then we always have something to fall back on. So that can be something that can make a side hustle a particularly interesting or attractive idea, is if you perhaps, God forbid, lose your job one day, or you have to take a pay cut for whatever reason, then your side hustle is still giving you a little bit of financial support and stability, and it can take a bit of that pressure, that worry off from the problems created by whatever's happened to your main income stream. Essentially, they go from being a problem to a bit of an inconvenience thanks to the side hustle and the fact that your income streams are now diversified. So overall, as much as I'm inspired by Grant Cardone, I really like learning from him, particularly about real estate. I have to say I disagree with this article for the reasons that I've just explained before. You know, I think this article that he's written only works in the context of and is aimed at people who are entrepreneurs and want to build wealth fast and build it very high, so become very rich people. For a lot of us who are maybe looking towards financial independence, or just supplementing our income, then side hustles are a perfectly acceptable and good means of doing that. Now, what did you think of the article, guys? Do you agree with Grant Cardone, or do you disagree and you like the idea of side hustles? Leave a comment and let me know. Now, why not check out my other videos? And if you're not subscribed and you want to see more content like this, then make sure you hit the subscribe button with the notification bell so that you don't miss a single update. I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money. Multiple sources of income.